this is poverty. What is happening? Those mothers would never allow their children to drink alcohol if they have something else.
It is because of the kind of advertisement that is given to alcohol.
Sometimes we enter the liquor shop and they think maybe we are old or something, judging from our appearance.
Every child under the age of 18 years should not be allowed to enter to the taverns.
Underage drinking, Venezuela, and AFCON. They're all topical, so let's get to it. A very good evening to you, South African, those watching around the world. My name is Blaine Herman, and this is It's Topical. Before we get to that, we have to talk about this story first. It's topical after all. Venezuela's president, Nicolas Maduro, and his wife captured by U.S. forces. Maduro is currently in the United States, reportedly being held in a detention center in Brooklyn. You're going to see the visuals shortly. He is set to face drugs and weapons charges in a Manhattan federal court soon. There you go, some of the pictures, fresh pictures that we've seen. U.S. President Donald Trump said that they would, and I quote, run the country until such time that they can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. Now, at a press conference, when asked by a reporter, why is running a country in South America, America first? President Trump responded by saying that they wanted to surround themselves with good neighbors, with stability, and surround themselves with energy. Now, he went on to say that there's tremendous energy in Venezuela, his word. They want to protect it. We need that for ourselves. We need that for the world. That's what he said. Now, there's been a lot of talk about Venezuela's massive oil reserves, right? President Trump did say that America's large oil companies will go into Venezuela and they will invest billions of dollars to fix, as he put it, the oil infrastructure and make money for the country. He also said that they are also prepared for a second strike, to stage a second and much larger attack if they need to do so. So many questions surrounds these developments, right? How will it play out? What precedent does this action set for the rest of the world? It is important to understand the context of this, the ripple effect. What will the ripple effect be on the rest of the world? The Ministry of International Relations and Cooperation put out a statement. They said that South Africa views these actions as a manifest violation of the Charter of the United Nations, which mandates that all member states refrain from the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state. South Africa is also calling on the UN security to urgently convene to address the situation, right? No doubt the story is moving. Rest assured, it's topical. SABC News is watching all the developments really closely. We'll bring you the very latest analysis and context in the hours and days to come. So keep it locked on to SABC News. Now, to tonight's topic. By now, you've seen this video that's about to play. We blurred it for obvious reasons. There are minors involved here. The video purportedly depicting minors consuming alcohol on Christmas Day. It has given many pause, right? We're told earlier this week a police investigator successfully traced the location of the incident to a household in the Eastern Cape. And we're also told that a case docket has been registered for the contravention of the National Liquor Act, specifically for supplying or making liquor available to minors. This is a serious offense under South African law. Let's take a deeper dive into this issue tonight. How many children are drinking alcohol in this country? What are the real drivers of this? But most importantly, what can be done about it? Are we losing our future generation to the scourge of underage drinking? And to what extent are the attitudes and their behaviors around underage drinking, not isolated to the individual's choices, but are, one would say, influenced by societal norms and pressures. We will discuss. It leads us to the question of the week. We ask you, underage drinking is seemingly increasingly playing out in public spaces, homes, online. You saw that video, right? What's driving this troubling trend? Let us know at SABC News_TV. We're also opening up the lines today, 011-714-0677, 7879. Get calling. I'd love to talk to you live on air. Perspective coming up. Right, let's tee it up for you, what we know and why it matters. Control, put up this slide that we have for you that illustrates the point I'm about to make. I was reading through some of the findings from the Human Sciences Research Council, right? Back in 2019, the HSRC conducted a mixed method study in low resource townships across 3 provinces in South Africa. Now, what this did is that it provided further insights into adolescent drinking behavior. There was a sample of just over 3,500 adolescents. That's between the ages of 11 and 18 years. And the results found that 67% had consumed alcohol at least once in their lifetime, and most had their first drink at the age of 13 or 14 years. Alarmingly, right, almost a quarter of males and 16% of females said they had their first drink at the age of 11 years old. So the question then becomes, such an early initiation of alcohol use, what are the consequences in terms of alcohol dependency in later life? We will discuss this. Now, the study also found that many young people had easy access to alcohol. Roughly 1/4 reported that they had gone to a tavern to socialize with friends, while 23% had been able to purchase alcohol at the tavern before. Concerningly, about 1 in 5 adolescents, around 21%, reported getting drunk at a tavern. And more than 39% had entered a tavern without being stopped, despite their age. Now, have a look at this next slide, and I want to talk to you about the risks. We have a few, right? Children's brains still developing, high risk of alcohol poisoning, possible brain and liver damage, and higher risk of addiction later in life. Now, I know, I initially threw a lot of numbers at you, and I've learned over the years that numbers mean absolutely nothing without context. So we're going to take a deeper dive into these issues in a short while. But I want to hear from you first. Our Word on the Street feature took to various streets seeking diverse insights and perspectives on this topic, and this is what people had to say.
This is poverty. What is happening? Those mothers would never allow their children to drink alcohol if they have something else. Perhaps it's that alcohol. There's no cold drink in the house. The only thing which is available is alcohol. Now we are going to blame the mothers and also blaming the children. But what is the source?
Kids are watching TV. Kids play with tablets nowadays. They see this advertisement, they see this enjoyment, they see this joy, and they think that this is a good thing. Hence, you see them when they drink alcohol, they think that it is the best thing to do. It is because of the kind of advertisement that is given to alcohol.
Sometimes we enter the liquor shop and they think maybe we are old or something, judging from our appearance. So the only solution that they must do is they must just allow the process of having them collecting their IDs so that they must enter and buy alcohol.
I think parents should be strict to their kids to not go to the taverns and working with the taverners to be strict that Every child under the age of 18 years should not be allowed to enter to the taverns.
All right, we really appreciate your thoughts on this. We have to unpack this, and as always, every week we have the better minds. In studio, we have Maurice Smithers, coordinator of working for an alcohol-safer South Africa. Thank you very much indeed, sir, for joining us.
My pleasure.
Joining us virtually is Mokebe, Thulo, CEO of aware.org, as well as Mpumzi, Zuzile, Eastern Cape Department of Social Development. Thank you so much indeed for joining us. It is an important topic. It's a worrying topic. Some might laugh it off, but it has serious implications. What on earth, Maurice, goes through the minds of an adult that is supplying alcohol to a child as young as, say, 8 years old, let alone filming it and posting it?
Look, I think that we have to see these events, and it's not just the one event in the Eastern Cape.
Yeah.
There are 3 or 4 that was circulating on social media. You have to see these in the context of other things that have been happening around the festive season. One is obviously the minors drinking. The other is the killings that have been happening in the taverns, including one which involved the killing of a child, an underage child. Alcohol and initiation. There's a whole issue around that as well that came up this time. Drink driving. And even internationally, the foolish behavior of the people in that Swiss pub that set the pub on fire. So the world in which these kids are growing up is a world that has these things happening, and they see these things, they observe these things, and there's not very much being done to protect them from it. The second thing is, I'm not sure if people are aware of this, but the Liquor Act, the National Liquor Act, actually, Section 10(1) of the National Liquor Act says that you shall not sell or provide alcohol to a minor.
Right.
But Section 2 says, notwithstanding Section 1, an adult, a parent or a guardian or a religious person can provide alcohol, a moderate amount, they use the term moderate amount of alcohol, to a minor. As long as it's done under their supervision.
And that's a narrow exception, right?
It is a narrow exception, but if you look at that video, for example, in the Eastern Cape, the parents might be able to say, yes, you know, we were at this party, we gave our kids a Savannah each, we were watching them. Yes, we were laughing because we thought that it was quite funny, but we were watching them, we were managing them. They could argue that they did nothing wrong, and that's one of the challenges we have. We don't have clarity, particularly in our legislation, about how to manage these things properly.
Right. I want to talk a bit about that. In fact, the Liquor Act, it carves out this narrow exception, Mpumzi. It says that the parent, adult, guardian of a minor, or the parent responsible of administering a religious sacrament may on occasion supply to that minor a moderate quantity of liquor to be consumed by the minor in the presence and under supervision of that parent, guardian, or other persons. So that's one exception. I wonder if that is being abused in certain way. We'll get to that in a short while. But I want to pick up with you. Have you managed to locate the family? Have you managed to visit the family that's in this video? Mpumzi, we're having a bit of a difficulty hearing you. If you can unmute.
Can you let me?
There we go. I can hear you now. Go on.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. We have managed to locate the family.
Yeah.
We have sent social workers to visit the family from the 30th of December. From the 31st of December, we also sent them on the 1st and the 2nd. We have been going there together with health professionals, together with members of the police on the first day. However, on the other days, we've been going there all by ourselves. However, what we have picked up is that 3 of those children that we managed to pick up in that household were actually in Morocco for school holidays and have subsequently gone back to Cape Town. And now the department we have formulated a report, and we have now in contact with our counterparts in Western Cape, so that social workers are able to continue visiting those kids. The police have also requested us to get more statements from the kids. So the social workers in the Western Cape are assisting us in the Eastern Cape to do more interviews with the children, so that we get the matter to actual finality. So we have been in constant communication and visiting and talking, including giving counseling to those children.
What sort of conversations were you having with the adults on scene there? What was going on? What was the context? What was the reasons given for allegedly supplying these kids with alcohol?
The reason given by the father is that the kids stole the alcohol. They were not given the alcohol. However, we when we met with the parents, we showed them and we spoke in length about the Children's Act of 2005, which provides comprehensive guidelines regarding the protection of children, and including provision relating to the consumption of alcohol by minors. The Act prohibits the sale and supply of alcohol to children. This includes any form, even distribution. So when the gentlemen in studio were alluding to the issue of the National Liquor Act, the Children's Act is very clear and is very specific in relation to the allowing children by parents. It's a contravention altogether of the Children's Act for a parent or a guardian to allow a child to consume any form of alcohol.
Mokebe, the law is seemingly explicit when it comes to selling or supplying liquor to a minor that is under the age of 18. So whether you're a store owner, whether you're a bartender, whether you're an uncle or aunt hosting a private party, you cannot supply alcohol to a minor. Is this understood, though?
Good evening, and good evening for having us. I don't think it's understood. I think for the most part that the understanding is the basis that alcohol may not be sold to minors. I think that the large majority of people that encounter the legislature understand that part of the law, but I do not think that it is entirely understood that as was said, you are not allowed to distribute alcohol for any reason to minors, whether it be for sale or whether it be in any sort of private setting, aside, of course, in terms of the Liquor Act from that caveat that was mentioned by Maurice. But I think, as was said, the Children's Act comes in very plainly.
You know, Maurice, some of the pushback that parents might supply as possible reasons is, look, I want to demystify alcohol for children. I want to remove the forbidden fruit allure that they might be attracted to. So rather I have them drinking in a controlled space rather than going out and doing so. What do you make of that approach?
No, definitely there is that approach. I know about that approach. I know because it actually impacted on my family, where there were underage kids, sort of 16, 17 years old, who were being allowed to drink in the family environment, because the idea was that, you know, let them get drunk and pass out on the lawn. It's better that they do that than in a nightclub or in a gutter somewhere. But I think that goes to looking at the bigger issue of the way in which alcohol use is normalized and glamorized in our society. Because why should there be this expectation that kids are going to drink? And I think that we really need to address that issue. And advertising has a huge role to play in that, because advertising glamorizes, normalizes, encourages kids to live in the expectation that when they're going to turn 18, they are going to drink.
Yeah.
So I think parents who have that attitude are somewhat misguided because it doesn't really solve the problem.
Right.
Because once the kids can drink on their own, they're not going to be protected from those risks. But the other very important issue, which studies have shown, is that the earlier a child begins to drink, the more likely it is that they're going to have problems with drinking later on in their lives. The second issue is that it's also well known that brain development continues well into the mid-20s. So therefore, kids starting to drink at a very early age can impact on brain development. So these are all the things that we as a society need to consider, and then we need to have appropriate measures for dealing with them, and that is legislation. And now it's very interesting that we've shown now tonight that we have one piece of legislation saying it's okay to give alcohol to kids, and we have another piece of legislation saying that it's absolutely not allowed.
Right.
So we need to resolve that, but we also need to find a way to have a national strategy for reducing alcohol harm in the country, not just with minor kids, but across the board.
We'll get to that strategy and intervention in a short while, but something that caught my eye, today's Sunday Times front page, right? And I've got it in front of me. I just want to read a bit. According to the DG Murray Trust alcohol reduction campaign, Rethink Your Drink, spending on alcohol nearly tripled in the days leading up to New Year's Eve, with drinkers spending more than R1 billion a day. R1 billion a day on alcohol. Now, we haven't verified those numbers ourselves, but that's good news, I guess, for the industry. But Mokebe, what does that say about us as a society?
I think it's no secret that, and I think we keep landing in these various places, but the issue here is that South Africans have an unhealthy relationship with alcohol. And that is where the basis of all of these conversations start. I think that the last number I saw in terms of spending on alcohol was 414 million rand, I believe, a day. And that was, I think, just before Christmas. And of course, that is ludicrous. Of course, it doesn't make sense, especially in a country such as ours. But if we do not contend with and we do not face the issues around why South Africans drink the way they drink and what South Africans' relationship is with alcohol, we are going to be chasing our tails forever and a day. We're going to be reaching out to say that, oh no, let's change another piece of legislature. We've got so many policies in place. We've got a wonderful infrastructure of policies, a plethora of laws that are in place that are there to protect the citizens of this country. These can, of course, always be improved, and where there's gaps, they need to be fixed. But law enforcement has to take place in order for this to happen. We have to have a system of awareness and education around what is alcohol. What does alcohol do to you? Yeah. What does it mean for you to consume alcohol? If we're talking to under 18s, it should be completely unacceptable in any society, in any community, for under 18s to be having or consuming any alcohol under any circumstances, whether it be New Year's Eve, whether it be Christmas, whether it be their birthdays, whether it be taking a tiny sip or not. Because alcohol is not safe for under 18s, and that is the point. But because we have this unhealthy relationship with alcohol, where milestones and all celebrations lead to alcohol and not safe consumption. Safe consumption is okay. If people have the, capacity to make the decision around their bodies and they are over 18, for example, and they're capacitated to do so, then wonderful. We say drink responsibly, go out, conquer the world and enjoy. But it's about protecting the vulnerable in the country. It's about protecting the vulnerable people. And it starts from when they are under 18 so that they understand the repercussions. Right. They understand where they can go for resources in the event that they need some sort of assistance. They understand that they can have a good time without consuming alcohol.
Right.
The parents aren't bullied and in a situation where they feel like they must concede and at least give the child one drink so that things stay happy. The aunt doesn't turn a blind eye. This is all about behavioral change, and it has to start somewhere in individuals, and it's an all of society problem. All of us in our different hats as individuals and in our professional capacities have a responsibility, all the way from education and awareness to law enforcement, all the way to the end of it. It's not some one silver bullet that's going to solve this.
Clearly a collective effort. Mpumzi, I wonder the information that your department has been gathering on the ground over the past couple of years regarding this issue of underage drinking and the possible approach of parents trying to kind of demystify the whole alcohol allure. Whether you take that approach or not, it still runs afoul of the law. So how do you incorporate in educating adults about the law, given certain loopholes that they might want to pursue?
Thank you again. The department in the Eastern Cape, working with the Department of Education, working with the Department of Health, working with SAPS, we have outreach programs that we conduct at schools, from primary schools, higher primary, high schools, and universities. We have set aside over 80 million rand as the provincial government social development for these programs. We have identified about 39 wards around the province where we have seen there's a problem with poverty and alcohol abuse and substance abuse. We have a program which we called ICROP, which is a program where we take all government departments to that particular area. As part of that, we do go with the liquor board as well to these wards, where we teach the kids in these various schools about the dangers. And we also take our social workers with us so that when we're done talking to the kids, we have sessions where we do talk to the parents about the dangers and the contravention, what will transpire if a parent is found to have been negligent and allow a child to consume alcohol. So we've got these programs that we do on a regular basis in the department around all these 39 wards and municipalities around the province.
Yeah. The penalties, Maurice, are serious. Up to, what, R1 million in terms of fines, up to 5 years in prison, you'll get a record. These have serious repercussions, serious consequences. What, from your experience, are the misconceptions around underage drinking?
Well, like I said, I think we should start off by saying that the problem, and I would disagree with the issue of just limiting protection to underage children. Because it's quite clear from our society that people above age 18 need to be protected from alcohol as well. And this is a global phenomenon. In a place like Russia, for example, in 2018 there was a report published by the World Health Organization. Now, everybody, by the way, everybody always talks about South Africans love their drink. Everybody in the world loves their drink. They say that about Australia, they say that about America, they say that about Russia with vodka. They managed through good legislation to reduce the consumption of alcohol by 43% and to increase the life expectancy of people by 10 years. So the reality is alcohol is not a safe substance, but it's part of our reality. It has been part of our reality since before when we were still hunter-gatherers. Right. So it is, you can't ban it, you can't restrict it completely. But you have to have a system of managing it in a way that everybody is protected. So yes, we've particularly got to do that for underage people. But if you don't have that culture in your country that is protecting you across the board, you're not protecting the kids, because the kids see things happening. They see the way adults behave. They see the way in which their brothers and sisters, older brothers and sisters drink, binge drinking themselves into a stupor. They are not being protected because of that. So what you've got to do is to change the whole culture in the country of drinking, particularly because a study in the UK showed that out of 20 recreational drugs, alcohol is the only one that causes more harm to the rest of society than it does to the individual.
Right. Mokebe, I guess you have to strike a balance here, right? Because this is a massive industry and thousands upon thousands of jobs are created through this industry. So we need to find a kind of balance here in terms of responsible usage of alcohol versus the industry per se. How do you change, to Maurice's point, how do you change the culture in terms of finding that balance?
I don't think that you can change culture overnight, but I completely agree with Maurice. We're not on opposite sides of the fence here. We want to change the culture of drinking in the country. We're trying to make people understand what it means to your health, your safety, etc., etc. And I'm not saying that we are only looking to protect the rights of children, but those are the vulnerable people that need to be protected. Full-grown adults are able to protect themselves, and there are things in places like, for example, operating hours from a seller's point of view, tavernas, clubs, etc. The fact that you can only sell certain types and amounts of alcohol, etc., etc. So this argument of balancing the economic value of the alcohol industry versus the value of human life, I think is not one that necessarily has to be had. I think we can do both things. I think that we can value the jobs that are brought in by the alcohol industry, but also equally educate people around what they are doing, because what we want is a healthy country. And the reality is that if you look at problems that arise because of problems related to unhealthy alcohol consumption, you've got things like the growth of illicit trade. So we've got about 18% of illicit trade, and that means it's not good for anyone. It's not good for the consumers because it's a bad health risk. It's not good for the sellers. It's not good for the country because we're not making the taxes there. And so it doesn't actually make anyone any money for people to be consuming alcohol on a super unhealthy level. So spoiling the country, for example, from a seller and manufacturer point of view is not what the aim is here. Yes, of course, they're about the bottom line, and yes, they're about making profits, but they're about doing so responsibly so that they can have sustainability. That is the thing about it. And when we even speak about things and we speak about, comparative stats and best practices in other countries, we need to be careful about who we are comparing ourselves to. We need to remember that we are South Africans and put ourselves in the South African context and find geographies that are at least even on a base level similar to us. And I mean, many studies, people often bring up alcohol advertising. Number one, many studies have been done related to alcohol advertising, and it brings us back to, again, what happened with the tobacco industry. And there's very futile evidence in terms of the banning of alcohol advertising leading to a reduction of alcohol consumption.
Right.
You cannot do any one thing on its own. You have to build all these blocks together, and that is the only way it works. And so we have to be careful about how we contextualize this whole thing. And speaking to, how then, what do we do? What we do is we run programs on a practical and pragmatic level, like Mr. Mpumzi was saying. And we partner with the Eastern Cape Liquor Board, for example, on a schools program, which is a peer-to-peer No to Under 18 program in 2 of the municipalities, where young people are trained, empowered, educated, given materials, etc., to teach their peers about the dangers of alcohol consumption.
Right.
They have WhatsApp groups, they get material, they get, tested. It's growing the education. It's about teaching. It's about spreading the word and doing the good and practical work on the ground.
Practical,
It's wonderful for us to...
Practical is key, right? Because it needs to be targeted interventions. People need to kind of recognize the examples. It needs to be relatable in order for it to be effective. Hold that thought. We're going to have to take a quick break. 011-714-0677-7879 is the number to dial. If you want to get into the conversation, give us a call. We'll try to take some of your calls after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching It's Topical. We're talking about underage drinking, and we're asking the question, underage drinking seemingly increasingly playing out in public spaces, homes and online. What's driving this troubling trend? Let us know at SABC News_TV. We're also taking your calls, 011-714-0677-7879, number on your screen. We understand that we have Dimakatso from Limpopo calling us. Dimakatso, very good evening to you. What's on your mind?
Good evening. Thank you very much for having me. I think one of the most evident questions that has arisen is that what is causing this particular problem? And the panel has continuously mentioned legislation. We have this legislation. It's there. It's constructed on a good foundation, but is it implemented? What are we saying about oversight in taverns that are selling alcohol to underage minors or kids in society, but also the gentleman from the Department of Social Development within the Eastern Cape speaks about a conjoint effort and not creating a silo within departments that are tasked with combating the surge of consumption by underage people. The problem that we have here is that oversight only takes place in a period where we have identified a crisis. I mean, can the gentleman name any other instance or give us other instances where the department has responded to such instances where there were minors identified consuming alcohol in the presence of their parents? And this isn't a thing that happens in a silo. It has been happening. There are cases out there. People do know about them. But the departments that are tasked with doing this are very lazy in terms of responding to the crisis. They're only reactionary when it does happen. So there's a failure within government institutions to react to this. But also, when we talk about societal ills in general, the problem that we do have is that we have a broken society of inequality, poverty, and some of the high alcohol consumption that we see across the board is caused by such societal ills.
Right.
And we aren't having any mechanisms to combat that are working effective enough to so that we bring those numbers down. So we're only going to see an escalation from here that isn't really helping the society in any way. So we need to create more effective systems that respond to the
right
that we have.
Dimakatso, thank you very much indeed. Point taken. I'll put that to Mpumzi in a short while. I want to take one more call. Musa from Mamelodi is on the line. Musa, very good evening to you. That sound tells me that he's not on the line. We'll try to get him back in a short while. Oh, Musa, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. Can you hear me, Mr. Blaine?
Very good evening to you.
Okay.
Your question.
Mine is not a question, but rather a thought as well in terms of this underage drinking. I think for me, we need to look at it from how there is a lack of parental involvement in terms of underage drinking. For instance, if a child comes to you as a parent and they ask you for money, you need to be able to critique and ask them what are they going to do with that money. And for the mere fact that children are able to can display themselves drinking publicly is to show that they've been doing this privately, and now they find themselves more comfortable to showcase it publicly for perhaps the community to see it. And as well, it shows that there is a huge barrier between our law enforcement and also tavern owners not understanding the laws that to say that to sell to a younger, to an underage student, underage learner is wrong, and that can revoke their license. So I truly think that what must happen is that laws such as these must truly be enforced. Thank you.
Musa, thank you very much indeed. Let's try to squeeze in one more. Moses from Katlehong is joining us. Moses, a very good evening to you.
Hi, good evening. How are you?
I'm better than I deserve, Moses. What's on your mind?
Yes, what's on my mind is that we have all these policies of which are great and everything. But the challenge that we have is that we don't have in terms of a political will. And the people that are supposed to ensure that laws take place, they don't do that. For example, we don't have in terms of support and participation in terms of the structures like local protection committees, provincial sustained abuse for CDA. Like recently, CDA had a second annual summit, but the Department of Social Development has dismissed failure in terms of financial support. We don't talking about the deputy minister being there. So those are some of the things that we need to address, because these structures are mainly to ensure that there is a coordination, there is a facilitation. As long as departments and these structures are working in silos, then it becomes a challenge. The organizations that are implementing, you'll find that they are not even getting in terms of much needed, adequate financial support. So these are the things that are playing a role. It's not necessarily about this other thing. We have great policies and so forth. Our challenge is that the mayors, executive mayors, the MECs and the ministers are failing in terms of or not, disregarding the law. Because, for example, we find that there's local protection committees, but there's no financial support. There is no in terms of participation in Africa. Some of the municipalities are not even having a local protection committee and so forth. So those are some of the gaps that we need, to close. And equally, we need a strong civil society that will hold itself in terms of the employees that are deposited in these structures and ensure that there is an accountability and monitoring in terms of the departments, and the like, because the industry in itself is regulating itself, basically it's monitoring itself. There is no external in terms of structures that are playing on. For example, we look at what we call liquor board. Liquor board, if you can check this media, you must ask yourself how many local organizations that are funded by the liquor board to assist, because liquor board cannot be everywhere. Now we are talking about illicit alcohol and the like. Just imagine, we are talking about underage now. But the still issues of underage drinking. Why the liquor boards are not supporting adequately the organization on the ground so that they can help them in ensuring that there's a message that goes on the ground.
We'll try to get their response as well. Moses, value added, no doubt. Thank you very much indeed. Appreciate your comments. Let me go to Mpumzi just to weigh in on some of the questions. Firstly, from Dimakatso with regards to interventions that are proactive rather than reactive. Your thoughts on that?
As I've earlier alluded, is that the Department of Social Development does have programs aimed at educating families about the risk of alcohol and the children. And we always encourage communities members to report instances of underage drinking. For instance, I'll make an example. There's a village, I forgot the name of the village, somewhere in the Mbondoland area, under Chief in where the entire village has taken a decision that there will be no alcohol sold in their area. There is no tavern. There is no bottle store in that village. If you do drink, you drink it somewhere else and you come back to your village. So this is not just a government issue alone. We need communities and community members to work with government and the law enforcement agencies. When a parent see a child consuming alcohol, it is not only let's say you see Mpumzi's child consuming alcohol, it's not only Mpumzi's responsibility, it is every parent who sees a young child consuming alcohol out there to be able to intervene, ensure that social workers are called or the police are called so that action can be taken.
Right.
If needs be, a child needs counseling, that child is given counseling. If they need health assistance, that child is taken to the nearest health facility so that they do receive help immediately.
Right.
So it is a community program that needs to be assisted by the communities and government working together.
Maurice, the issue that Musa touched on of parenting. We know children can be crafty. If they want to get their way, they will get their way. If they want to deceive their parents, they can.
Yeah.
Case in point is me. You know, I mean, back in the day when you tried to get out of home and do the things that you weren't supposed to do.
Sure.
But I mean, are we as parents? And parents are busy. We are trying to put bread on the table. Are we, as parents, out of touch, though, with the lived realities of the youth that is preventing us from getting this more informed strategy of preventing this?
Oh, definitely. Look, I mean, I think, Mokebe said that we don't disagree, and I think we do agree in a very broad sense, but we disagree on many other things. But I would agree with her that it's a very complex issue.
Yeah.
And so, there's parenting. There's the issues that Dimakatso raised around poverty, about joblessness. There are even issues. I mean, the issue of this village in the Eastern Cape that has banned alcohol. It's great. That is, I fully agree. Communities should do this. But in a study that we did in 4 provinces last year, we discovered that in every single community, this is young people, this is people between the age of 20 and 30, in every single of the 8 communities that we spoke to, they all said that they were scared to raise issues around alcohol in their neighborhoods. And the one guy said, we need to move from a situation where taverns control communities to where communities control taverns. And that's 100% correct. But the problem is that there is not an enabling environment for that to happen. And that comes again back to the issue of legislation, it comes back to the issue of law enforcement, corruption, a whole range of issues that militate against being able to actually create an environment where kids can grow up in a safe, an alcohol-safe space.
Mokebe, I have to get your final thoughts. I've got about a minute left before we have to go. In terms of the strategy going forward, where's the solutions here?
Our solution has to lie in the hope that we can create a system of prevention rather than cure. Because we know that, for example, the biggest, in this case, drivers of underage drinking are number 1, peer pressure, number 2, family role modeling. And we both, all of us know that if that's the case, we are in big trouble. So we need to get to these kids before they see anything else, so that we can plant a seed in their head, so that they can question things that are happening. And then if each of these other elements do their jobs, if the liquor boards do their jobs, if law enforcement does their jobs, if tavern sellers do their jobs, if parents parent their children, if intergenerational conversations are had, then these are the other parts that build onto this. But that would be living in some sort of utopia, which we do not live in. So for now, what we have is to educate our children, create awareness, and give them enough power to start questioning things and to at least start being able to make different decisions when faced with the impossible. Because we don't live in a utopia. But where we can take responsibility as individuals, where we do have some sort of influence, whether it be my community in terms of my neighbor, my nephew, whatever the case is, let me be responsible for what I role model. Let me be responsible for what I share on my social media pages, etc., etc.
Mokebe, thank you so much indeed for your time. Mpumzi, Maurice, value added, no doubt, ongoing conversation. But thank you very much indeed for trying to be part of the solution. Thank you very much indeed. All right, before we wrap up the show, we have to talk about AFCON, right? Big game coming up. The Africa Cup of Nations is no doubt heating up. South Africa is taking on Cameroon at 9 p.m. SABC News sports reporter Safisa Ramara is with fans in Rabat, Morocco. He sent this report.
From the capital city of Morocco, Rabat, we are at the El Medina Stadium. This is the 18,000-seater venue for the much-anticipated match between Bafana Bafana and Cameroon. Fans, I'm from inside the stadium. Fans are still going to arrive, hopefully, but luckily I was able to spot Mama Joy, the biggest fan of football in South Africa. Mama Joy?
Yes.
A big one tonight, South Africa against Cameroon.
You know, this is the big one because we are playing Cameroon. And when we lose, we are coming back home. And I don't want to come back home. I want to come back home, final game. So today, I'm telling you, Bafana, Iba right. We are going to win 2-1. Watch the space. I remember last when we played Morocco, I said we were going to win 2-0. And they didn't understand. They were laughing at me, but it happened. Even tonight, it's going to happen. 2-1. Cameroon, we don't have chance because we have to go through you. Without going to you, we can't go to the final. Say we are here. This is our way. You are standing on our way. But shift. Please, I'm asking you to shift nicely. No fight.
But Mama Joy, it's not going to be a walk in the park for South Africa. We are in the knockout stage now. The game can go either way.
Yes, even as South African, I know it's not going to be easy, but we are going there. We are going to the final. I'm telling you, it's not going to be easy, but I have confidence. Bafana Bafana, I have TLB. I know TLB what is going to do. So we are going there to play Morocco. But I'm telling you, 2-1.
And if we manage to go through, it's the host Morocco, another difficult one.
We are going to beat them again. You remember at Cote d'Ivoire what happened? We beat them 2-0. We are going to repeat what happened at Ivory Coast. I am sure and I'm confident. That's Mama Joy, you know, Tara from South Africa. I'm a super fan.
That's Mama Joy, the most important, or should I say, famous football fan in South Africa. But I also have this gentleman from Cameroon who is very confident that the indomitable Lions are going to cause a major upset tonight. How do you see the match against Bafana?
I think the match against Bafana is going to be a very tough game. First of all, because of the coach of Bafana, who is Hugo Bros. We know him very well because we won the African Nations Cup in 2017 with him. And he has the expertise, the skills and the knowledge of African football and how to win it. So that's why I'm a little bit, not scared, I'll say, but a little bit on my guard because you guys have a very good coach. Yeah.
But with 5 titles already under your belt, it proves that the indomitable Lions are a strong team in Africa.
Yeah, it's true. But we also have to take into account that this generation is different from the previous ones, and even different from the one that won the last one, 2017. It's a very young team. I think they haven't played. They just started playing together from this African Nations Cup because a lot of players were also not called, like Abubakar and Onana, very experienced players. But I'm confident because we also have experienced players who can transmit this knowledge, this expertise, these skills, and I think I'm confident that yes, we can win with this team. Yeah.
And the nation that wins tonight will face.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Spisa Romara in Rabat, Morocco, with the fans ahead of the big game tonight at 9 p.m. South Africa taking on Cameroon. Can Hugo Bruce do it again? He did it with Cameroon in 2017. Can he do it with Bafana Bafana? We no doubt won't miss that game tonight at 9 p.m. All right, before we go, here's my take with regards to the topic that we were discussing tonight, underage drinking. Act responsibly. We've all heard that, right? Whether at school, even as an adult. It means to behave in a sensible way, a trustworthy way. Use good judgment, and most of all, be accountable for the outcomes. Look, being a parent is tough, right? I know firsthand. And as I've said before, we know that children sometimes lie to get their way, to go to parties, to go somewhere their parents might not agree to. I've done it. So moralizing here tonight won't help. Right, mea culpa. And situations are different. So playing the blame game won't help either. What we need are targeted interventions to interrupt the status quo, the current situation. We need relatable examples to talk to the lived realities of our children. And like so many issues in this country, we require correcting and collective efforts in order to get us to that better place. We require the entire community to get us back on track. As attorney Dani Cronier recently wrote, liquor and minors don't mix. So it's on all of us to ensure that the law is followed. And that's my take. If you miss anything on this program, then be sure to watch this episode of It's Topical on YouTube, as well as SABC Plus. If you're watching a repeat of this program, then as always, the news continues. Unwrap Africa up next. Until next week, my brothers and sisters, take care. Bye-bye.